Hello and welcome back to my series about ON1 Photo Raw 2019. Today we are going to finish off this image. I bet you are just as tired of looking at this image as I am. So we're just gonna do some sharpening. We're gonna do some something with the sky. I don't really know what yet. And we're gonna do some saturation. And most importantly, we are going to make this side, the left side of our image, a bit softer. And finally, we're going to do the crop. So if you haven't downloaded this image and you want to tag along for this edit, you can download the image in the description. Anyway, let's just get started. First thing we are going to do is to try and soften this side and maybe desaturate it. We're gonna do this softening with a dynamic contrast filter, and we are going into the negatives for the small, the medium and the large, and it should update soon, and you're gonna see that the entire image is getting a bit softer. It usually takes a little while to do this as it's so many filters going right now, so you just need to be patient if you have a slower computer. Anyway, we are actually going to paint this filter in. We are just going to let it apply to the entire image so we can see actually what it does. By doing this, we are going to see what kind of opacity we need on the brush. Also, this video I tried to record it 4 times I think now, or this is actually the 4th. Anyway, it always turned out to be a really long video, so I was hoping that this video would be a lot shorter this time, but I bet it's going to be just as long. Anyway, now we can see what this dynamic contrast are doing to the image. So it's changing the image a bit too heavy, but we're not going to do anything about that. We're gonna do the opacity on our brush a bit smaller. So the opacity is at 60 right now. I think we need to go down to at least 30 somewhere. Yeah, and we need to make sure that the mode is changed to paint in. Just gonna start painting in on the left side, and I'm actually not going to paint these rocks around here. I accidentally did it, but we're gonna remove that. Just increase the brush as I go around this image. And as you can see on the mask under the dynamic contrast, it's painting in the effect, but it's not painting it in fully since we have the opacity at 33, but you should know that by now. Okay, so we are softening. I think that's enough. Maybe on the right side as well, along the water here. Just going down in the brush size and just painting it in. I think we need to do a couple of brush strokes over here, and we also need to paint out this brush over here. Not paint out, paint in the effect, sorry. And I think I'm gonna do the same over here, because this is noise to me. Let's call it object noise. So not the regular noise that you would try and remove the grainy noise, but composition noise. That's even better. Let's call it composition noise. This composition noise, I really hate it. I don't like that in trees, because if you have too sharp trees, it's just gonna turn out to be a lot of noise, and you're gonna be tired of looking at that image pretty soon. But that's my opinion. If you have another opinion about that, that's entirely fine. Okay, I think that's done actually. I think we have done what I wanted to do. I need to make sure that we get to paint out those rocks that we painted on top of. So I'm just going up to 100 in opacity. Make sure the feather is at 100 if you need to do this, so it feathers out and you don't get that hard brush stroke. So everything with a texture is kind of nice to me, except the trees. As I said, the trees to me are noise. But everything else on this image with texture, I'm gonna try to make it pop. My entire purpose right now is to separate these brush textures or straw textures or foliage from the texture of the rock, so it's more obvious that we are trying to frame in the waterfall. We are trying to lead whoever is viewing this image straight into the water and up to the waterfall, and maybe the trees in the background. Okay, so this is painting in and out. So let's continue. We're gonna add a color adjustment, and we're gonna bring down the saturation over here just a bit. So I'm thinking maybe I should just copy the mask from the dynamic contrast. Let's do that, and we're just gonna go in and paint in that mask and paste in, not paint it. And we're gonna go on the, yeah, we can try and go down on the reds. I don't think that's gonna change a lot. And let's go on the orange and go down on saturation on the orange, because I want this orange to be the most orange on this picture. I don't care about the orange over here. So yeah, let's go down even more. So going down slightly on the saturation. I think that's actually fine. That's just fine. I'm thinking maybe go up just a bit on the brightness and even on the reds here. And let's go into the greens and go down on the saturation there as well, and just a bit up on this brightness. Okay, so that's desaturation. We are going to call this desaturation left side. We actually did desaturate this as well, but let's just go with that name. And we're gonna add another color adjustment. That's sweet. And we're gonna paint in orange on this one. I'm probably going to try and use this for the greens up here, because I want more focus on the greens here. So let's just go into the reds. We're gonna up the saturation. We are going down slightly on the brightness. I might change that because that might look kind of funky. On the orange, we are going even more into the orange with the hue, and we're gonna go up on saturation just ever so slightly, and same on the yellows. Let's try and go even more into the orange, up the saturation, and possibly, yeah, around there. Then we need to go into the mask, show hide mask options. Let's invert this, and let's start brushing it in. So if you don't have this brush up, push the B key on your keyboard and you will have it. And make sure again that the mode is set to paint in. I'm actually not going to change the opacity. I'm just gonna paint in this. If I need to change the opacity, I will do it on the filter instead. And just paint in. So we should see a pretty big difference. And it seems like I need to change the brightness, actually. Maybe pull it down just a little bit. At least on the top. Yeah, I can't care about that right now. We're just gonna do this because this video are going to turn out to be a really long one. I'm really sorry that my video turns out this long. Okay, so that's this tree, and apparently it's too much. We need to lower the opacity on the filter just ever so slightly. So to around 80. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's start on the green here and see how it all comes together. So I'm going into the green, so I'm going up a ton on the saturation, maybe even more actually, and maybe go down just a little bit on the brightness. And I need my brush, thank you. And let's paint in. Yeah, so I don't see any major difference up here, so we might need to go on the yellow and change that. So let's do that. Let's go up on the saturation even more. Yeah, a bit more. I think that's it actually. So finally we have done the saturation part. Now we are going to do, I think, the sharpening. So let's just start doing that. So we are actually going to paint in the sharpness again. So we are going to sharpening. Now you're going to see that it's really sharp. So I don't really recommend using any of the presets here. I recommend you to use the sliders. The presets are too heavy, but the screen sometimes works, so I'm going to use that as a preset over here, and I can always change the opacity either on the brush or on the filter. So let's just start brushing that in. We need to go into the masking options and we need to invert and brush, and it's gonna take a bit time before it renders completely, so I'm just gonna brush it in either way. And I'm actually brushing in at 100 opacity. I forgot to change it, so I'm going to use this slider on the filter instead. And let's just brush in. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to enhance all of the rock textures, and we're gonna do some painting inside the waterfall on the rocks you can see underneath the water. So yeah, I'm painting in on all of these rocks, and I would like to paint in on the water, the running water as well, but that would take too much time. So I'm just going to try and paint in on the rocks here. I'm actually going to disable a lot of filters here because it's totally crazy. So that's the way to do it. Make sure that lens correction is off. Make sure to disable all of the filters, and then paint in whatever effect you're trying to paint in. And that should help a lot, and it will help for the crop as well. So jumping ahead a little bit here, we have disabled every filter and the local adjustments, and made sure to disable the lens corrections. When you have, you can go into sharpening again and just go to the brush or the mask, push B if it's not active, and you can start painting in. So just make sure the mode is set to paint in, and paint in the sharpening on the rocks and everywhere you want to sharpen. So I want to brush in the sharpening on the running water and the darker running water. There's some ice on top, but it's not white, so just gonna brush it in, and it will make it pop even more. And that's of course hard to see now when we have disabled every other filter, but yeah, this is the way to do it for us right now. And I think it's starting to look pretty decent over here. I think I'm gonna sharpen just around here as well, even more. Yeah, Yeah, so that's nice. And then there's the crop left to do. So go into the crop, and we're gonna try for a more Instagrammy like crop. So we are going to 4x5. So it's not entirely Instagram, because Instagram is usually 1x1. Yeah, I think this crop will kind of work. So the thing now is that we get rid of the brushes on the left side, most of it, and also the straws and everything that's disturbing on the left side, but we are losing a lot of the greens up here. So I think I'm just gonna go just a bit up here to around here. Yeah, it's kind of laggy still. Yeah, that's good. So let's apply that crop. Yeah, it's not the perfect crop. Actually, I'm not happy, so I'm going back into that crop, and we're gonna go even more to the left side. Just not too much though. So to around here, I think. Maybe even go up slightly. Just carefully go up here. And maybe even go out on the right side. Yeah, this might work. Yeah, so that's a lot better in my opinion. We kind of have the rule of thirds. We have at least most of the water kind of on the line of rule of thirds. So this is a pretty nice crop actually. Now, if you remember, there was some lamp posts around here, light posts, kind of a chrome color. I have removed them, but if you want to remove something, you go into the fix, and under the fix you have both perfect eraser, and you have the retouch brush and the clone stamp tool. So the perfect eraser usually gives the best result. The retouch brush is really excellent on portraits. In the clone stamp tool, it does what it says. It clones whatever you set the anchor point on. We are gonna try and remove something with the perfect eraser. So just to show you, I'm going to remove this little brush. It's kind of disturbing, and we're gonna see if there's any other things we need to clean up. I removed some dead trees, the tree trunks over here, but let's try and remove this. It's gonna take a long time for it to render now that we have a lot of effects on, especially on a mid-tier computer, but just try and do it. I usually make sure that the brush isn't a lot thicker than the object I want to remove. In this case it's a lot thicker, but I think it will be fine. So we're just gonna let it render, and it's gone. So that's exactly what I did with the lamppost. Just make sure that the brush isn't too big, and it will be fine. So I think that's it actually. Let's activate all the filters and local adjustments again, and then we're gonna put on the lens correction and see if there's any tweaks we need to do on, for example, the vignette or the toning under the develop module. Okay, so it's starting to rendering it back, everything we've done so far. Just gonna let the computer do all of the rendering before I do anything else. Okay, so I think it's done rendering. I think it's safe to use the computer again. So let's go through here. We have done a lot to this image now, and whenever you do a ton of effects, a ton of adjustments, whatever it might be, it's gonna start lagging down your computer. And that's even true for high-end computers, or average high-end computers, if that's a thing. So whenever doing a lot of effects and a lot of filters, a lot of adjustments, whatever it might be, you're gonna strain the computer a lot. And that's even true for some high-end computers, but you got to take it for what it is. This image is over-processed right now, but I wanted to include as many filters as possible to this image so that you could see the progress and what the filters are doing for our photo. So anyway, just don't go overboard. You will be safe, even on a mid-tier or even maybe possibly a low-end computer. You will be safe if you just do normal toning and normal amount of filters. Anyway, I think this is actually the end of this series. I might go back and do the new big thing, which is the artificial intelligent masking tool, AI quick masks, and we might replace the sky or do something like that, but that's gonna be an extra episode. I'm not gonna do this now, so this is the last episode of this series. If you want to buy ON1 Photo Raw 2019, you can do so by clicking on the link in the description. It will give you 10% off. If you like this video, please click on that like button, and if you want to see more videos on ON1 Photo Raw 2019, Luminar, Aurora and Lightroom, click on that subscribe button. And thanks a lot for watching these long videos. I really appreciate it. I know they are too long, and I'm sorry about that. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye.